Welcome and good morning to the second session this morning. My name is Grunwald from DN Systems from Germany, and I'm going to present some new things in attacks against RFID systems. We have heard a lot about RFID, and who of you guys attended my talk 2 years ago to the RF dump? Okay, not so many. We have not been lazy the last 2 years, so we are able to develop and push RF dump more forward. 2 years ago, I got a lot of press quotes and from spokesmen from the RFID lobby. They're telling us, oh, this is not possible. The unencrypted text will be encrypted. They will be secure. We are going to encrypt any data. And now let's have a look to encrypted RFID tags, exploits, new ways to exploit their systems. We have a short look to the unexpected risk to the middleware. We are talking a little bit about reader emulation and soft tags, we call it, with RF dump, and how to exploit and attack RFID systems. And first, I'm going to give you once again a short overview. What is RFID? And in the big case, RFID stands for a whole bunch of communication protocols. Radio frequency identification is much more than EPC, is much more than a RTD, a RFID passport. It's much more than an access control card or a pay card or your credit card. It's, in general, the wireless transmission of information between transponder and reader without any visibility. And it enables, in most times, bidirectional transfers. So you are able to read and write the RFID tag. And the transponder or tag can be attached, embedded, or implanted. And it allows you to do automatic correlation between objects and saved data. So we have a lot of generic terms if we are looking to RFID. Often RFID is used as a generic term for the complete infrastructure. This infrastructure depends on different parts. We have a transponder, also known as RFID chip, tag, label, wireless label, or simple RFID chip. A reader, but in most cases, the reader also allows you to write to the tags. We have some middleware. Normally, the middleware is going to connect the reader to the server. We have communication infrastructure and integration with server farms, data warehouses, services, and supporting systems. So there are different types of RFID. We are going to sort them on the depending read distance. We have short read or short range RFID solutions. For instance, the ISO 14443A and B. It's operating on 13.56 megahertz, or the low frequency stuff like you implant in your cat or the very chip. It's 125 to 143 kilohertz. And it's using the electric and the magnetic field for exchanging the information. We have mid-range solutions. The read range is up to 5 meters. Typical is ISO 15693. And it's also operating on the frequencies like the short-range stuff, and it's using only the EM field. And we have long-range RFID solutions, like demonstrated the last year, and it's operating on higher frequencies. So there are transponders out in the field, and we have different kinds of transponders. This specific type of transponders, they are only transmitting a unique ID, like a serial number. They are only passive. They are used sometimes for identification. They are used for tracking, for e.g. fast track, and they are only operating in clear text communication. We have transponders that are able to store data. It's pretty much an EEPROM or EEPROM. So most of them are passive, some are active. That means they are carrying a small battery, and they are battery powered for higher range. The best known is the EPC label. We have smart labels, and most of them are using clear text communication. Some are using encrypted communication. And we have transponders that act like a smart card interface. Most of them are passive, some of them are active, so you don't want to change a battery before you can cross the border for your passport. So they change to use a passive smart card interface. Some of them are used for access control systems, For instance, the MyFair Deathfire, and they are normally using encryption, authentication, and encrypted communication. So we have heard a lot of generic attacks, so I will just give you a short overview for who of them who were just sleeping the last presentation, either in the room or in your hotel bed. So sniffing the communication between the transponder and the reader, so you can counterfeiting of communication. You can obtain a user ID, user data, and metadata. You can perform basic attacks to structures and tags. And for instance, you can do a replay attack to full access control systems. Also, you can counterfeiting the identity of a reader and do unauthorized writing to the tag. For instance, change the user ID or with manipulation of the administrative block. So you are able to declare false identity. So the UID must be readable in clear text, and manipulation of product groups and prices as presented 2 years ago. And you are able to manipulate the data directly stored at the transponder. So you are able to manipulate the data and the metadata. You can logically swap objects or logical duplication of objects in your supply chain, for example. Or you can deactivate the transponder to disable the traceability of objects or disable the visibility of objects. And you can do attacks against structures in the middleware and backends of manipulating data and structures. For instance, you are able to inject malware into backend systems or middleware systems, as shown at the last presentation, for instance, database worms or manipulations of backend systems. You can also always perform an attack against the infrastructure. You are able to jam RFID frequencies. The most of the RFID frequencies are used the ISM band, so you can just go to a police store and buy out-of-band police jammer to shut down a supply chain. You are able to do attacks against the anti-collision mechanism like discussed in the RSA paper, or you can prevent reading the tag if you're jamming the frequencies, doing a simple denial of service attack against the RFID systems, or shut down the whole production, sales, or access. If this type of tags controlling your production cycle or used for your logistics into your warehouse or your stock. Now let's come to the interesting things. We have done research on the last couple of months. Encrypted RFID. So the most of the attacks, as quotes from spokesmen from the lobby and industry, are shown, oh, this is only possible because we are not using encryption. The new RFID attacks will utilize encryption, so you cannot do sniff, you cannot do clear text communication, and you cannot break in two. This type of cards are pretty common for your access control system to drive into your garage, or if you check in a nice hotel, you get some sort of cards as access control. Or it's used for data center access control, so for more risky parts than normal clear text stuff. The technology is based on ISO 14443, and it's operating on the 13.56 megahertz frequency. The MyFair tags, there are two types of MyFair tags. We have the MyFair standard. This is proprietary high-level protocol, and Philips proprietary security protocol used for authentication and ciphering. And we have the MyFair Lite. This is the same tag without any type of encryption. You only have the memory from the tag. And we have the interesting things like MyFair Pro, MyFair Pro X, and SmartMX. These are fully compliant to the ISO 14443 standard. There are different types, and these different types of tags offers you different memory space. This memory is protected by two different keys, the A and the B key, and each sector. So the card is segmented in different sectors, and each sector could be protected with one of these keys. Normally, it's pretty secure. So we have tried to brute force attacks. With this key space, it takes more than 22,000 years, In fact, you need to initialize the tag and you need per round with a brute force Perl script 25 milliseconds to run a brute force attack against these keys if you're using one RFID reader. In case these keys are shared secrets, so you can use more than one. You can use, for instance, 1,000 readers. But it didn't help much. If you share the key space and you make a distributed attack, you still need 226 years. So something like a botnet or something like this is necessary, and it's a huge problem because most of the PCs outside doesn't have RFID reader and doesn't have the cards, so it's not difficult, or it's difficult to clone these cards, to distribute the cards to millions of machines and trying to break them. So we need a different approach. Unfortunately, Philips put all information under NDA. And if you're doing security research, you're not interested to sign any type of NDA. So what we actually did is we got some RFID software and used the Unix command strings. Who knows the strings command? You know what's happened if you use the strings command? You get the 0-byte terminated strings out of the program. And the next thing is we looked at the results and found some strings that exactly matched the keylang used to get access to a sector. So, and once again, Google is your friend. Every developer has a Google desktop installed. It's very popular, especially at smart card developers. And what's the problem? Oh, they're all lazy. They don't want to enroll passwords to access. So they're putting all this secret information into a special directory where no one can access. Unfortunately, Google search was installed on this machine. So the developer was looking for some information. He signed the NDA. He got the special URL personalized for him. No one else can access. And thank you to Google, the world got it. So look at the results. We got a whole bunch of keys and also the most information that's just under NDA, but it's public available through Google search. Okay, we got some keys, we got some information. Oh, wait a minute, we also got the data sheets. And we got the default keys, we got more than 60 keys from example applications. Even without any type of protection, you can access with a 0 key. So, what will be the next step? Oh, there's a nice document. It's called MAT, and it is really MAT. This is the MyFair application directory. This is a PDF that shows the MyFair tag, and Philips tried to standardize something. So they put something like an application identifier into each MyFair tag. And if you're doing an application like a ski pass or a ticketing or counting or something like this, you can classify your layout, you can classify your tag, how is it formatted, how are the sectors formatted, and how is it working, and put it into application directory. Something like ticketing has a specific entry, something like access control or pay cards. So, and what we found is in this data sheets, we got a lot of sample layouts pointing to these examples. These sample layouts include different keys of tag and memory layout.